This is Sharon Bornholt with Innovative Property Solutions in the Louisville Gals Real Estate blog, and I have someone with me today that that's going to be a great inspiration for all you 20-somethings out there that think you might want to start a business, but you feel like you're too young or too inexperienced. My guest today is Jeff Kowalczek from Columbus, Ohio. He's 27 years old, and he's a full-time real estate investor. Jeff says he knew since he was a teenager that he wanted to invest in real estate. In 2007, he opened his company, Perfect Property Solutions, and he did his first private money deal with a family member. Jeff has successfully wholesaled almost 200 deals. Wow. And some of those buyers were international buyers. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Sharon. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited to have you today because so many young people, they just are afraid to jump right in like you have. And I think you really can be a great inspiration to a lot of those people. So you got, right out of high school, you got a job with Sprint.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about that job.
That was I knew right out of high school, I knew one ability I had were sales skills. Mm-hmm. I knew I was a salesman. My mom always told me that growing up, you're going to be in sales. Started at a very young age. My family always tells me a story that when I was young, as soon as I was able to, ride my bike around the neighborhood, I would always start coming home with all this cash, and my parents would say, "Where the heck would this? Where did this come from?" Mm-hmm. And what I would do is go out in the fields and go down to the creek and pick up cool-looking rocks or cool flowers, mm-hmm. and I would go door to door and actually sell them.
Wow!
So, that's where it all started. I knew sales is what I wanted to do, and right out of high school, I got a job with Sprint. Selling cell phones, and my first year was when the cell phone industry was booming. Mm-hmm. At that time, right out of high school, I was making more money than pretty much all my friends, mm-hmm. even some of my high school teachers. So, I was pumped at that time. I loved what I did. I went in every day enthusiastic. I was a sales machine, and
mm-hmm.
I enjoyed every moment of it. But
mm-hmm.
over the years, the industry started changing, commission structures started changing, mm-hmm. and, I slowly saw the industry, go down and down, and, over the years, I just kind of realized that, this isn't for me, this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life, and
so this is not a career.
Yeah, exactly.
So how many years did you stay at Sprint?
I was at Sprint roughly 4.5 years. I stayed with Sprint.
Okay.
In the first 6 months on the job, I received 2 promotions.
Oh wow!
I got to a senior sales rep and to a manager position in the first 6 months. After that, I had to deal with promotion freezes, pay freezes, mm-hmm. you name it. So that really contributed to me kind of getting burned out in that industry. I felt like I had, after a while, I felt like I had a glass ceiling over my head. That I was capped out. I couldn't, no matter how good my sales were, I couldn't get any farther up, it seemed like. Mm-hmm. So that really ultimately let me make the decision to finally make that leap into being an entrepreneur.
So during the time you were at Sprint, though, you went back to school and got an associate's degree in real estate. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, actually, right out of high school too. As I was working at Sprint full time, I was getting an associate's degree in real estate. Because at that point I did know I wanted to do real estate. I just had no direction at all at that mm-hmm. point. I just knew that's what I was interested in. That's what piqued my interest. So, I went to do that, and eventually that it worked out
mm-hmm.
good for me because that's where I am now. So.
Well, now, didn't you start investing while you were still working at Sprint? Your first little bit, weren't you investing some when you were still there at Sprint?
absolutely. I would call it more making mistakes and learning from them than investing. Yeah. But yeah, right out of when I was 16 years old, I would spend a lot of time in my evenings, reading real estate investing courses such as Robert Allen's No Money Down in the 2000s and some other courses. And, by the time I hit the age of 18, I was so anxious to turn 18 so I could really get out there and legally start signing contracts and doing deals that as soon as I turned 18, I literally did go right out and do that. And I made a lot of mistakes. I can honestly say my first 2 deals were very painful, but to say the least, I learned so much from the both of them that still benefits me today from the knowledge that I received from those 2 tough deals.
Well, tell everybody just a little bit about those. Just you can give me the short version. What did you do wrong, and what did you learn from those deals?
Well, again, I didn't have any cash, any credit back then, so my first one was a subject to deal, and I had no idea how to structure the deal. Finally I was able to structure the deal, but then I realized I'm only 18 years old. I don't know how to deal with tenants. Yeah. I was lost. I didn't know who had to pay the insurance, how my payment worked. I didn't know anything. I just did it. I just leaped into it knowing that I need to do a deal because I want to do deals. Yeah. And, that I just got stuck doing maintenance on houses, dealing with a bad tenant very quickly. And, so I kind of veered away from subject to type deals after that. It kind of, got me to a point where I had to spend a lot of my money on credit cards to fix up those places. And it just turned out to be such a nightmare that it really, it made me kind of lose interest in that type of investing for a while I was in school and working because those first couple deals were bad. But, I never gave up. I still kept pushing and everything's worked good since. So.
Well, and that was kind of the point I wanted people to get. Everybody's made mistakes, but the difference between you and so many folks is that you didn't quit. You got discouraged, you got mad at yourself, and you realized you needed to learn more, but you didn't quit. You hung in there, and you went back and got more education, and then you started doing deals again. I know that one of you have said that one of your biggest things that set you on the right path was the fact that you got a mentor early on.
Absolutely. Yeah, so, that was definitely. But
yeah, how did you find your first mentor?
Well, I did a lot of research in my market for people that were doing deals. I would constantly look at, this house got bought. What are they doing to it? How much are they selling it for? And I was just constantly doing research on some of the big players in my market. And I found a gentleman that was a wholesaler. And he was a very successful wholesaler in my market. And I knew that, okay, I don't have any cash. I don't have any credit. This sounds great. Wholesaling sounds like the perfect niche for me. Right. And I went out and met this guy and, just basically, told him, hey, I'm looking for a mentor. I want somebody to show me the ropes of the business. And I paid him very well for a period of 6 months to literally teach me every aspect of his wholesaling business. And not only did he teach me, he held me accountable every single week to my marketing, to my deal flow. I mean, to every aspect of my business, he held me accountable to. And that ultimately was what was the push I needed. Starting out by yourself, it's really tough to understand which direction that you need to take. And having someone who's done it, who is actively doing it, and who is successful at doing it, holding your hand, but also holding you accountable the whole way, was very, very powerful to me. And that ultimately got me where I am today, by getting a mentor in my own market. And I'm very thankful, today. And, I actually now have multiple mentors. And I believe that's, how you build a firm foundation in your business is to really get several mentors that can, help you along the way, and ultimately you can learn from their mistakes. So it was very powerful and, good for me to do that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't even know if you realize how lucky you are to have found somebody like that. That really went all out for you. Even when you're paying somebody, they often hold back. They don't quite tell you all their secrets, but what he really did for you, that was even the very best thing, was to hold you accountable and to get you organized and all of that. And you can carry that forever.
Definitely.
And I want folks to know too that at some point you do have to pay for a mentor, but in the beginning you can go to your local RIA. You could walk up to this guy Jeff is somewhere and say, help me with this aspect, and I know that you would be more than willing to do that. Real estate investors by and large they're a group of people that are very much of the mindset of giving back. So I know that you're that way too.
Yep.
So did he have a structured way of teaching you, or was it just kind of what was going on that week, or kind of more of a loose type of agenda, so to speak?
It was somewhat structured. Every week we either met or had a conference call together, and we really reviewed how many offers I was making that week, how much marketing I was doing that week. We did deal review, which starting out in real estate, that's a tough part, is to really grasp a hold of your market and really know, am I making a good offer, or am I overpaying? So having someone in my own market was definitely huge when it came to deal review and so forth. And that was a big push. That ultimately allowed me to understand my market quicker, to where I could capitalize on more deals because of that.
So you had him for, you said, about 6 months, and then you was that about the time that you opened your business, or was your business already actually open at that time?
My business was already open at that time. I started the business in 2007, and that's right around when I found my mentor.
Okay.
And so I struggled during the first 5 months of my 6-month mentorship.
Yeah.
I was doing everything I was told. I was pushing so hard, but it just wasn't all coming together. So, it got to points where I was part-time. Once I took on that mentorship, I went part-time in my job. So, the money started to dwindle, and I wish I would have established what some people call an entrepreneur account, where, they're saving up, for their entrepreneur ventures before they actually quit their job. I wish I would have done that, because when I went part-time, for the first 5 months of my mentorship, I didn't do one deal.
Yeah.
And it was very challenging, and, you always question, is this going to work, or am I going to have to go back to work full time? But I didn't give up. That's the big thing. You have to stick with it. You have to keep going. And in that 6 month of my mentorship, I believe I wholesaled 4 deals for around $26,000 in profit. Yeah. And I had a huge month. And so that's when I was sold. After that month, I did finally take the leap and quit my job, and have been going full blast ever since, Sharon.
Yeah. Well, you have made great strides. I'm so impressed with the fact that you say you've wholesaled nearly 200 deals. I mean, that's really a phenomenal amount of houses. So what is your primary lead source for your houses, or do you have more than one?
Well, I definitely have more than one. I mean, at any given time, I have 10, 12 marketing campaigns going on at any given time. But in my market, especially in the areas that I target. I target specific areas where I can provide investors with properties that are high cash flow, that I can sell to them for anywhere, usually around 20 to 25,000. That's going to rent from anywhere from $600 to $700 a month. That was my bread and butter. So I heavily targeted those areas with bandit signs. I did multiple direct mail campaigns, code violations, absentee owners, you name it. I mean, every type of list I could get my hands on, I was targeting and mailing to. So that was a big learning lesson for me in the beginning too. Was I would do one big marketing campaign and I'd have all these leads coming in, and then all of a sudden they would just stop. And it made me realize that it's continuous. You have to keep following up and continue marketing to continue constantly driving in new leads. So, that's when I kind of adapted and started trying just tons of new things. And really, the key is to track your marketing. Every real estate market is different. In some markets, bandit signs are huge. They drive tons of leads. In some markets, not so much. So really, when you're starting out, it's about testing different marketing and really being able to track that marketing effectively so you know what works best in your market. And, I would recommend that to anyone to always track your marketing very closely. And it will definitely work out good for you.
Now, you said the houses, the average sale price of those houses, the wholesale price was about $20,000. So what would the ARV be on those houses?
Well, back before the real estate bust, most of those houses were, in neighborhoods where they would sell between $70,000 and $100,000.
Oh, wow! And
since then, these areas are. A lot of the areas where I have invested right here in Columbus are historical type areas, but they're also primarily rental neighborhoods. Okay. So you don't have a high percentage owner occupants. These are areas that are compromised of mostly rental properties. So as you know, in rental areas, when sellers are looking to sell their house, one of the biggest things is my home in a rental area, right? And if so, it's tough to really ask for retail value in a primarily rental area. So I really targeted those areas because that's the product that I sold the most. I established relationships with investors all over the country and also international investors that were wanting to invest in the Midwest in a very stable market, and Columbus attracted a lot of those investors because of the type of cash flows that you can get here. So that you can get. So really, that once I realized I had that product, I developed this system that made it a completely turnkey investment for out of state international buyers, that they could buy a house completely rehabbed with tenants already in place, property management in place, ready to go, that can start making them a good return on their money right away. And, once I realized that was working, I kind of niched towards that and really focused on those types of houses. So it's been working good. A lot of those houses I've been able to sell in packages as well. So it's not just onesie twosies, but 5, 6, 7 at a time to investors as well. So that was my niche. And so you buy the house, you rehab the house yourself, or you have it done. Is that correct? Well, it all depended. I targeted properties that already had tenants. I targeted tired landlords. Okay. So a lot of times I had properties with tenants already in place. But in other situations, yes, I would purchase the property, quickly rehab it, put a tenant in it, and sell it as a sell it as a turnkey property.
So you're actually, I guess that brings me to my next question. So you are actually closing on these properties. You're not just straight out wholesaling them or assigning the contract or whatever. So for folks out there that might be wondering, where do I get the money to do this? Do you have private funding or what's your source of funding for these types of deals?
Well, back then I scrambled to find funding. Back then I did a lot of assignment of contracts too, with the intention to the buyer that, okay, we're going to assign this contract to you and we're going to start, here's your rehab quote. We're going to start rehab as soon as you close. So a lot of times I was still assigning the contract, but just handling the rehab and the tenant placement for the buyer after they purchase the property.
With their money.
With their money, yes, and
okay,
pay my assignment.
That's what I'm trying to get at. Well, that's an interesting concept. So I guess that leads me to one more question. So how have you built your list of your buyers list for your out-of-state and international buyers? Did you create a system for that, or what is your system for that?
Well, in this day and age in real estate, the internet is very powerful. I would say that the most of my lead generation came from the internet. Massive exposure, just doing different search engine optimization, really getting out there and networking and some of the different blogs and forums all over. Also, a lot of Craigslist marketing. In my market, Craigslist is very powerful. So, I kind of hit the internet is in social media and just asking people for referrals ultimately gave me the exposure I needed to have a lot of these, out-of-state and international investors calling me. Because ultimately I had a product they wanted that they can't get in a lot of areas in the country.
Right.
So, just by building a massive exposure online drove a lot of these leads to come in, and they were able to see what type of product I had, and I basically allowed them to pre-screen themselves and see deals and see how the process worked, and that was ultimately a big success of mine, was just getting a lot of internet exposure, and that really helped out big time.
You've got a course there. You realize that on just that very niche.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think that's one thing that your age and your familiarity with the internet has certainly served you well. You're certainly in a position that maybe some of the older investors who aren't as internet savvy, they don't have that same edge as you have. Any advice you would have for people? I know you said you wish you had saved up some money before you quit your job. Any other advice you could give people to help them from crashing and burning when they go out on their own?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the number one thing before you quit your job is find a mentor. I'm a big believer in the mentor, so that's definitely one. Track someone down in your market who's actively doing the business that you want to start, and just ask them if you can help out for free, if you can come by once or twice a week and just help them out and just kind of see how the business goes. I mean, that right there is going to put you way step ahead than you would be if you did not find a mentor. So I definitely recommend finding a mentor. One of the other things I realized that holds people back from making that transition, Sharon, is the fear of the unknown. They don't know if the business is going to be successful. They don't know how and when they're going to get their next paycheck. And that's really, I think, most people's fear of not knowing what's going to happen next. And for me, it's all about taking massive action. When I finally got out of my job, I didn't look at it as, I work for myself. I have all the free time I want. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. I was literally working all day and then I'd take a break, an hour or two break at night, and I'd be back on it working on my business, till 3 o'clock in the morning every night. I was putting in 18, 20-hour days constantly, and that's something that I recommend. Once you finally do, make that leap from a 9 to 5, to being an entrepreneur, go full blast, work until your business is up and running and you have systems in place that are effective and are proven to work. And at that time, you can outsource those systems. But in the beginning, it's all about, moving forward, taking action, and hustling. That's the mentality you have to have when you first quit your job and start that and, start business. You have to just keep pushing. Don't give up. Work countless hours, and it'll come. It will come. So.
Well, I thank you so much, Jeff. I want to tell everybody to stop by your site, Jeff Knows Investing. And if you need a mentor or a coach, I think Jeff's available over there. You can check into that, and he can certainly tell you about that. You find all kinds of freebies over there on his site, too. Anything else you'd like for people to know, Jeff?
Oh, yeah, just jeffknowshouses.com is the blog. I do have some cool free marketing pieces that I give away for free on there. And, right now I'm just kind of testing some different mentoring programs here in my local market because I really want to make sure that I'm giving people everything they need to be successful. And soon I will be implementing some different coaching on my blog and so forth. So check it out. I share a lot of deal case studies on there and different things that, get down in depth of real estate deals. So, definitely check it out.
Yeah, and I'll put the link below the video. So thank you once again, Jeff, and you all be sure and go over there and check out Jeff's stuff because he's just a wealth of information. Thanks, Jeff, and I will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Sharon. Have a great day.
You too.